Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari. Hare Krishna and welcome. My name is Dayananda Swami, and I've been asked to say a little about by the Department of Education about the necessity of reading Srila Prabhupada's books. You know, we distribute many, many books throughout the whole world in many, many languages, and it behooves us to understand that those who are printing and distributing the books should also, it's very important that we read them in order to maintain and expand our Krishna consciousness. You know, ours is a hearing process, hearing the holy name. And Prabhupada said also, you know, and by hearing or reading the books, we're also nourishing our spiritual lives. And we can practically feel that if we spend time reading Prabhupada's books, then afterwards, you know, we feel rejuvenated. That's my personal experience anyway. So I've been asked to speak on one particular book called The Path of Perfection. This is just a small book. It's a book we distribute to the general public, but it's actually it's packed with you know, information of how to practice this process of devotional service. It's specifically speaking on the subject of yoga, and so it deals with the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and finally with the last 2 or 3 chapters, there's 10 chapters altogether, it deals with how we can attain perfection through this process of Bhakti Yoga. This is mentioned in the 8th chapter. But yeah, it explains, it's making the point about, for the persons who practice traditional yoga, or what's known as Ashtanga yoga, the benefit of, you know, Bhakti yoga over that of, it's active, it keeps the senses engaged. Are we able to, you know, control the mind like, you know, traditional yogi for hours on end, days on end, weeks on end? No. So it's dealing with the practical application of Bhakti yoga, how we can, you know, master the mind, how we can actually learn, even as devotees, actually learn to see Krishna in our devotional service. And it's just suitable for this modern age we live in. And by reading these books, we develop determination. And if we're just chanting without reading, we may feel inspired for some time, but without that, the intellect being, you know, surcharged again, we may become a little loose in our devotional service, or morose even. You know, we learn to see how there's a friend in the heart, the super soul. We're never alone. And also, you know, if we see Krishna within the sphere of our activities, by remembering that, it's very, very uplifting and enthusing, learning to see Krishna acting within our devotional service. And finally, it deals with the time when we have to leave this world. And it's explained that if we just do that, if we just serve Krishna with heart and soul, then he'll take care of the rest. Other traditional yogas, they have to pick the time to leave the body, and when the sun is in the north, and when it's a light fortnight, the fiery fortnight like that. Otherwise, if we don't choose the right time, we can come back to this material world. But Krishna assures us that just by following this process of devotional service, bhakti yoga, especially by chanting the holy name, then everything is taken care of. So this is the benefit of just reading this one little book. You know, we usually have to, you know, get the Bhagavad Gita out, Srimad Bhagavatam, and we've got modern devices, electronic devices now. But I always find that reading the written book, it's much easier. So it's a little book we can put in our pocket when we're traveling, and there's so much information in there, the whole process in one small book. So this is my realization and my understanding of. I was once on Sankirtan actually. I'd not been in the movement so long, and I was a little hesitant to go out on my own. At that time, we were doing door to door, and it wasn't a time when we were doing so well with books. We were selling paraphernalia actually, and so I rang my Sankirtan leader up and said, you know, I don't feel so inspired today to go out into, you know, into the city and you know, house to house. And he just said, just read. He said, read Prabhupada's books. So I took that on board, and I just sat down and read for half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, and I felt completely different. So it's something we tend to neglect. It's something, you know, we chant our rounds, we do our service, and somehow or other, you know, this book reading gets squeezed out. And then when we don't do it for a while, we find it hard to actually start. We don't know where to start. So I would say that this one little book, you know, Path of Perfection is something we can actually keep with us and read at any time, and we'll, you know, really get a good grounding in the philosophy. So thank you for listening, and please take this book distribution and book reading especially very seriously. It's the basis of our movement and the basis of our survival and commitment as devotees. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.